Beginning the countdown, number 10 is Are You Banned or Not? Over the years, we've seen the Simpsons get involved in some pretty wild adventures, so it was really no surprise that they got themselves banned from a state at one point of their journey. It was in season 11, episode 19, called Destroy the Alligator and Run. A Florida-based judge legally bans the Simpsons family from ever entering their state again. But apparently, the ban didn't scare them enough, or it was just an empty threat, because they traveled to Florida a couple of times in future episodes. In season 14, episode 7, we see them travel to the Epcot Center, and then they go to Miami in season 15, episode 18. So were they banned from Florida or not? Because if they were, they wouldn't have gotten in. You know what this has written all over it? Mistake. Y'all editors forgot about them getting banned. Coming in number 9 is What Class is Ralph in? It's hard not to adore the lovable Ralph Wiggum, which might be why this mistake has gone unnoticed on more than one occasion. Ever since he had that heartbreaking moment in Lisa's class, we knew that he was part of the Springfield Elementary's 2nd grade class. However, after that, there are a few episodes where we see Ralph showing up in Bart's class, which is the 4th grade class. So which grade is he in? 2 or 4? There's an ongoing theory as to why we see him floating around between classes. It's been said that he's able to be in both classes because the teachers don't really care where Ralph is as long as he remains quiet, which he usually does. And it's hard to hate him. But in reality, that makes no sense. I think what really happened here is the animators made some mistakes and need some kind of excuse to cover it up. I said what I said. Sliding into number 8 spot is The House Burnt Down. There's no doubt that things can get a little confusing when you have so many episodes as The Simpsons does. In a later season, we can imagine it's hard to remember everything that already happened in earlier seasons, so this mistake might be more forgiving. An example of this happened during season 11, episode 5 in the episode titled E-I-E-I-Do. That's clever. During the episode, the Simpson family is forced to hide out at the farmhouse where Homer grew up. This would only strike you as weird if you caught on to the fact that the farmhouse had already burned down to ashes in an earlier season. We were told that the place burned down all thanks to Homer and his father Abe. So there's really no way that we should be seeing the farmhouse in this new episode. At number 7 is Tell Me What Time It Is. Seeing as this is our part 2 list, it is no surprise anymore that the show is filled with a ton of continuity errors. This is just another example of one. This one is an error between the dialogue in the scene and the animation that's actually going on. It happens in season 9, episode 5 during the Cartridge family episode. We see Homer pacing through the house all angry because he has to wait a few more days before he can bring a purchased weapon home. Lisa can't sleep because you can hear him muttering angry things and stomping in the hallway. So she tells him to stop and she tells him that it is 3 a.m. and she can't sleep. But the editing team must not have realized that there's a clock next to Lisa's bed in the scene, and during that scene it clearly shows that it is 9:50 p.m. Not even close to 3 a.m. Oops. In spot number 6 is Ned gets an extra $50. During the season 13 episode 11 called The Bart Wants What It Wants, Ned Flanders has some good luck come his way. He goes to a silent auction and of course Homer decides to play a prank on his neighbor because why wouldn't he? He signs his name on a random sheet of paper with a bid of $50, so if it won, Ned would be stuck paying for something he didn't even bid on. Little does Homer know that the item he put the bid on was actually for a $100 bill. This is a bust for Homer, but a nice little surprise for Ned. But it seems like things got a little mixed up in the animation department because Ned is told he won a $100 bill, but when he gets handed the prize, the bill actually says $50. So why did the auctioneer say it was a $100 bill when they handed it to him? Because it clearly says 50 on it. Halfway through the list, number 5 is Homer's pants are magical. Apparently. Continuity errors can be something as simple as an object changing colors, or maybe something isn't the same height as it was in the frame before, but those things might be easier to miss. What's not easy to miss is someone's wardrobe completely changing, like Homer's pants for example. During the episode called Homerpalooza, season 7, episode 24, we see Homer performing on stage in a pair of jean shorts. He is rocking those good old jorts. But at one point, he dodges the stunt and jumps off the stage. When he jumps off, he's suddenly wearing pants, which makes it a really obvious transition mistake. We all know that you can't tailor a pair of shorts into pants that quickly. Here we are at number 4 with Where Did Marge and Homer Get Married? It'd be nice if we knew how their wedding day went down, but throughout different episodes we've gotten different versions of the story. Did they have some crazy wedding night full of partying, or did they have a more traditional lavish affair? The show can't seem to decide what kind of wedding day they had. During the episode called The War of the Simpsons, Homer talks about their wedding day and said, I quote, "That big bash we had all the champagne and musicians and holy men and everything. But then during the flashback episode titled I Married Marge, we saw that Homer was only able to afford a cheap wedding at Shotgun Pete's. So two very different descriptions of their wedding day, but honestly, Homer's version sounds a lot more fun. Alright guys, in the third spot is the background is upside down. I am not sure how I possibly missed something like this, but I feel confident in saying that I am probably not the only one. I'm also not sure how something like this works, because only the background image is upside down, not the characters. It happens during the Simpsons Christmas special called Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, Season 1, Episode 1. After Homer brings Santa's little helper home, we see Marge and Homer embrace in this adorable little hug. You probably missed the fact that if you look behind them, the background is totally flipped upside down. There's a picture and a lamp and it looks like they are hanging from the ceiling. But then in the next shot, the background is normal again. Moving into number 2 spot is the rake has 5 prongs, not 4. If you're gonna make a joke, at least do it full out and get it right. In Season 7, Episode 6, in the Treehouse of Horror series, there is a segment called The Nightmare of Evergreen Terrace. In the segment, Bart has a dream, and in the dream he's being attacked by this shadow that looks like someone who has 4 knife fingers. We see it moving closer to Bart, who looks terrified, but then in the next frame we see who it really is. It's just Willie holding a rake. But the rake we see has 5 prongs on it, not 4. So the shadow is actually wrong and it makes the joke a little less legit. And they really played it up that this 4 knife fingered monster was going to attack him. I mean, Bart's eyeballs were literally coming out of his head. So if you're gonna put all that effort in, count the prongs on the rake. Duh. Taking number 1 spot is Duff Beer. Wouldn't it be fun if there was a Simpsons themed bar and all they sold was Duff Beer and donuts and stuff? Like things related to the show? That would be really cool. Anyways, Duff Beer is something you can't get wrong when it comes to the Simpsons, but somehow during the editing process things got a little mixed up. In Season 13, Episode 3, Homer the Mo, we see Mo pick up a Malaysian beer at the bar. He's clearly holding the brown bottle with the Malaysian label. And the only reason he ordered it in the first place is because they don't serve Duff Beer anymore, and we only know this because he's the one who says it as he goes on and talks about how good it was. But in the next frame when Homer and Mo are talking, you see Mo put down his beer and it is suddenly a Duff. Not only did they screw up the label, but it doesn't even fit with their dialogue.
Coming in at number 10, Homer knows he's a cartoon. This Simpsons theory comes to us from Reddit user Razor Davies, who believes that Homer is completely and utterly aware that he is a cartoon. I quote, "In the Season 4 episode of The Simpsons, having decided he doesn't need to go to the church to remain faithful, Homer has a daydream in which God sits with him in the Simpsons' house. At the end of the episodes, he sees God again and asks him what the meaning of life is. God goes to answer him, but we cut to the closing credits. So what does God say? God tells Homer he's a cartoon. Homer in these moments learns that there are almost never lasting consequences for his actions. He can quit his job, go to space, ignore his kids and wife, whatever he wants. He's in a status quo forever. This explains why Homer has become a bit crueler in the later years of the show. He's lost some empathy and knows he's basically untouchable now. Wow, that's actually kind of sad. I don't like this one. I don't like Homer in this theory. No thank you. Coming in at 9, The Simpsons is a TV show within the Simpsons universe. Now this theory is absolutely insane, but at the same time absolutely genius. Hear me out. Posted by Reddit user Towels the Tricker, they said, I quote, "Having seen the recent Rick and Morty intro to The Simpsons, I noticed that Bart breaks the fourth wall to yell out, 'No more guest animators.' Something about the way Bart said this made me think to myself, wait a minute, Bart isn't normally that good of an actor. Oh, it must be because he's not acting right now. This made me think that The Simpsons are fully aware they are in a TV show. The theory is that within the Simpsons universe is a TV show called The Simpsons, and it stars the family. This explains all the really trite sitcom-y moments and terrible acting in the early seasons. This explains why they're able to afford their house and lifestyle on such a small wage, and why everyone in the neighborhood seems to revolve their plots around The Simpsons, because they are also actors. This also explains why celebrities just keep appearing. Well, part of me really wants to believe this one. I just don't. I believe nothing. Nothing's real. Coming in at 8, every Simpson is a genius. Now this theory comes to us from Kirby Clock on Reddit, who theorizes that every member of the Simpsons family is a genius. However, Lisa is the only one who embraces it. I quote, "Grandpa may be senile now, but his flashbacks show him doing a number of things that require a variety of skills, such as being a fighter pilot and an accomplished pianist, that suggest that he has at least an above average intelligence. Marge was an excellent student but chose a life as a housewife because it is what made her happy. This is important because everyone besides Lisa chooses happiness over intelligence. Homer would be one of the smartest men to ever live, except for the crayon he has lodged in his brain at an early age. We'll get to that later. The crayon was briefly removed and he becomes a genius, doing such things as proving God doesn't exist, but he put it back in order to avoid ostracism from his friends and community. Bart essentially makes the same decision as his father, but at a much younger age and without having to alter his brain. In one episode he is shown to have been incredibly gifted when he was younger, but his grades steadily declined. Why? That episode would have you believe it was the Simpsons gene which makes male Simpsons idiots, but the removal of the crayon from Homer's brain and his boost in intelligence proves that to be wrong. Instead, Bart witnessed that despite his father's many faults and crippling stupidity, that he is happy. So sweet, but come on dude, embrace the brains. You can be smart and happy at the same time. It's not one or the other. Coming in at 7, the Simpsons don't have livers. This one is absolutely insane, but I kind of love it. According to Reddit user Kai1E5, characters in The Simpsons have no liver. I quote, "Everyone in The Simpsons universe is yellow, which is a sign of liver failure, and Duff Beer has a fairly big role in the show. It's seen advertised or as being drunk in a lot of episodes. For generations, people in The Simpsons must have excessively drank, and everyone has evolved to a point where they do not need their livers anymore, hence the yellow shade to their skin." I'm into it, and it makes a lot of sense. It's just really creepy and a little disturbing. Coming in at 6, Bill Cosby. Now, like the others, this one is insane, but if true, could be absolutely groundbreaking. Uploaded to Reddit by Milhouse, they believe that The Simpsons' perverse sexual character Dr. Hibbert is a way of actually acknowledging Bill Cosby and his behaviour. I quote, "After watching the season 6 episode, Grandpa vs. Sexual Inadequacy, we see Professor Fink and the Van Houtens try the tonic with successful results. Dr. Hibbert is the next one to take the tonic, in the comfort of his bedroom with his wife. After taking the tonic, he does his trademark laugh, but for a longer time than usual. This is the key. Whereas the first two examples become hypersexual after taking the tonic, Dr. Hibbert simply laughs longer. His laughter is his way of releasing his sexual feelings and urges, perhaps a precursor to more physical and overt desires. When he is normally seen laughing, he manages to control his behaviour so that he doesn't go off the wall. But the tonic allows him to let loose a little bit, as evidenced by his extended laugh and wishful glances towards his wife. Again, to hammer home the point, the tonic does have an effect on him as shown through the aforementioned glances, but his long laugh displays that his trademark chuckle is actually also a sexual release. Speaking of lewd, sexual acts and desires, Dr. Hibbert and his family are a parody of the Huxtables, the main family of The Cosby Show, with Dr. Hibbert being more or less a portrayal of Bill Cosby. It may be a stretch, but what do you guys think? Coming in at 5, we're watching the show through Flanders' POV. This is perhaps one of my favourite theories on the entire list, simply because I love Flanders. Uploaded to Reddit by Anomalocaris, they said, I quote, "From the series we see that the Simpsons are losers, unsuccessful, uncivilized. Homer is a dumb ape without a raise since he got his position. Marge is frustrated, Bart is a monster, Lisa is wasting her potential. But let's see what is actually going on. Lisa ends up being the first female president of the United States. Homer is working in a safety position that he got while he was campaigning for safety. So he's not working for the money, he's taking care of Springfield. Seems obvious that Ned Flanders resents their secularism and feels much more superior to them. In the series, the Flanders are always shown as a perfectly happy family. Flanders sees Homer as an uncivilized baboon that hates him. He tries to be nice to them, but he ends up being passive aggressive by giving them his stuff. To conclude, screw you Flanders. Crazy, but there could be something to it. What do you guys think though? Coming in at 4, Homer is in a coma. Now, this Reddit theory states that Homer Simpson is in a coma, and has been for over 20 years. October 1992, Homer the Heretic airs, and ends with Homer talking to God. I quote, "Homer, God, I gotta ask you something. What's the meaning of life?" God, "Homer, I can't tell you that, you'll find out when you die." Homer, "I can't wait that long." God, "You can't wait 6 months?" Homer, "No, tell me now." God, "Okay, the meaning of life is..." Then, in April 1993, 6 months later, an episode airs that involves Bart's April Fool's prank inadvertently putting Homer into the hospital, where he is then crushed by a vending machine and put in a coma. At the end of the episode, he wakes up. However, this Reddit theory states that he didn't actually wake up from the coma, and that every single Simpsons episode after is in Homer's imagination. This is why characters don't age. Homer remembers Bart, Lisa, and Maggie as 10, 8, and 1 years old, so they will always appear that way in his dreams. Brutal. That's actually really sad. Coming in at 3, all Simpsons men have crayon brains. Now, this theory comes to us from Reddit user Andy Van Slyke, who said, I quote, "In the Simpsons episode titled Homer has a crayon removed that he stuck up his nose when he was a kid. He instantly becomes smarter, even disproving God's existence while working on flat tax proposal. However, in the episode titled Lisa the Simpson, it is clear that all the Simpson men are idiots, just like Homer before removing the crayon. Therefore, it must be that all Simpson men, at some point during their childhood, shoved crayons up their noses and were unable to remove at least one." Again, this ties back to our previous theory about the Simpsons being geniuses, and I am so here for it. Coming in at 2, predicted the Syrian Civil War. Now, this theory is perhaps the craziest one that we have on our entire list. According to some viewers, they believe the 2001 episode titled New Kids on the Block predicted the Syrian Civil War. In the episode, Bart and his friends join a boy band called Party Posse and record the single Drop the Bomb, a love song with heavy American militaristic overtones, with the song's chorus, please put the words here because I can't pronounce it, being a subliminal message translating to join the Navy. However, it's the song's music video which prompted most of the theories regarding the war. In the video, the band flies over a group of Middle Easterners standing near vehicles decorated with a flag similar to the one Syrian opposition used in 2011. It may be a stretch, but what do you guys think? And finally, coming in at number 1, Bart will grow up to create The Simpsons. As most of us will know, Matt Groening famously based The Simpsons on his family, naming all of the characters after his parents and siblings, with his character being named Bart because it's an anagram for brat. Classic. Throughout the entirety of The Simpsons, we watch on as Bart underachieves without much care for anything. However, we see his passion for comedy, with Krusty the Clown being his hero. We also know he has a strong admiration for Mad Magazine and animation, even writing an Emmy-winning episode of Itchy and Scratchy. That aside, Bart fails to make many friends until he discovers his love for making people laugh, which comes as an annoyance to his parents and principal. In every flash forward, Bart is portrayed as something of a loser, jobless, divorced, living in terrible conditions unless taken in by his parents or sister. However, people are theorizing this isn't the real end for Bart, and that instead he is destined to mirror his real life counterpart and create one of the greatest sitcom-based shows in history, The Simpsons.
Starting off the list, number 10 is the opening song. What better way to open this list with a mistake that happens in the opening sequence on every Simpsons episode. We all love that the opening credit sequence has a different couch gag in every episode, but the rest has stayed pretty much the same for all of the earlier seasons. Yet somehow we missed a mistake that appeared over and over again every time we watched an episode. At the part when Homer gets out of his car in the driveway, you can clearly see a rake, a bicycle, and some other items in the right side of the garage door. However, when Homer is being chased into the garage with Marge's car, you can see that the rake is gone and is actually replaced by 2 brown boxes that kind of just appear out of nowhere. On top of this, there is another little mix-up when Marge is going through the grocery store checkout. Her shopping cart is gray with a red handle, but then in the next shot, the entire cart is turquoise with no red handle. So if you're a fan who has seen every episode, you might be feeling a little dumb right now if you didn't catch on to these. In at number 9 is Dr. Nick comes back to life. It's hard to forget the lovable character Dr. Nick. I think it's fair to say he's pretty much useless when it comes to medicine and actually being a doctor, but his adorable personality and his positive attitude just makes him charming in some weird way. That's probably why fans were sad when he died in the Simpsons movie. He was just gone too soon. But only a year later, his tragic death was forgotten about. But not in the way where they just haven't thought about it in a while. They literally forgot that they killed him off the series. After his death, he showed showed up a year later in season 20, episode 2, called Lost Verizon. Either they forgot that he perished, or they wanted to bring him back so badly and they hoped no one would think anything of it. So the number 8 spot on our list is Bart allergic to shellfish or not? Bart has several food allergies that we learn about throughout the series, like peanut, shrimp, and butterscotch. But for some reason, the Simpsons creators have ignored his allergies in some episodes and then acknowledged them in other ones. During season 18, episode 3, we learn that Bart is severely allergic to shrimp. He ends up in the hospital with a swollen face after he had contact with peanut shrimp. But it makes us wonder how this is true, because earlier on in season 13, episode 21, Bart says that he ate a ton of free shrimp in the green room while the family was competing on a reality show. On top of that, in season 2 we see that Bart is also allergic to butterscotch, which is weird because Marge offers to cook him a butterscotch chicken dinner as a reward in season 8. Did we just forget he had allergies? Did he outgrow them? I don't know what's going on with this. Next up at number 7 is the nose is gone. Where did the nose go? How does one lose a nose? This mistake is a hard one to catch, but somehow a passionate Simpsons fan was able to bring it to light for us. Many of the mistakes found in the series can be found hidden in the background work. It can be something as simple as a misplaced object or a miscolored item. Then there are times when it is a bigger one, like a missing body part in this case. During the episode called Lisa on Ice, there are a few frames where we see an audience cheering and watching a hockey game. For a quick moment, one of the watchers ends up randomly losing her nose in one scene. It's gone. Like, it's there 1 second and then it's gone. Someone explain to me how this happens. At number 6 is the very impressive insurance plan. The majority of us have had to deal with the stress of filing an insurance claim, and if you haven't, good on you. Show off. Insurance claims take a while to go through, which makes it frustrating if you're trying to replace an expensive item such as a car. But apparently the Simpsons have the world's fastest insurance company, and I want them to sign me up. In season 6, episode 9, an angry mob shows up to their home along with police helicopters. The strong winds from the choppers flip over Homer's car, completely destroying it. However, only a few moments later when they are watching TV, we catch a glimpse of his car looking brand spanking new, totally fine, parked on the side of the road. That is some good insurance. It's almost unrealistic. Halfway through the list, number 5 is disappearing snow. This one is just a classic continuity error. Everything has to remain in a sequence in order to make sense, but somehow a very obvious mix-up found its way into the final cut of the episode. In season 4, episode 9, there was an episode called Mr. Plow. Homer plows a path for a school bus, being the good human that he is, and we see a shot from the school doorway which shows that their pathway is covered in snow, with the exception of some footprints. However, when the scene goes to a different frame of Skinner and Bart near the bus, the snow is just magically gone. And not like Homer plowed it gone, like there's literally no snow. The worst part is, the snow comes back in the next frame when Bart is hit with snowballs and falls down on a very snow-filled pathway. So what season is it? I live in Canada and I know that snow doesn't come and go that quickly. Here we are at number 4 with Mr. Burns' age. This man is iconic in the Simpsons universe, known to be the oldest and most evil person living in Springfield. But it's been made clear if you follow the series that no one actually knows how old he is. Mr. Burns himself probably doesn't even know. In the episode titled Simpson and Delilah, Burns tells Homer that he is 81 years old after Homer guesses that he is 102. Okay. So he's 81. But then, in an episode titled Who Shot Mr. Burns, he's described as 104 years old. Then again, in another episode called Fraudcast News, he claims he was born in 1881. So the math is just all over the place with this. But what is most surprising is that during one episode we see him giving children a hard time in the 19th century woodcut scene, but he still appears to be the old man we know him as. Is he immortal? Like, what's going on? In third place on our list is Sideshow Bob escaped from prison. We know the crazy man as being a strange children's entertainer who is constantly trying to get revenge on Bart after he put him in jail. Although he's weird, he's a fan favorite character that always makes a return in some episodes one way or another. Throughout the series, we see Bob find some pretty creative ways to get out of prison in order to make another attempt at getting back at Bart. But there's an episode early on in the series that shows Bob is out of prison with no explanation for it. In season 2, episode 1, you can spot Sideshow Bob singing with townspeople during an outdoor winter scene. His first release from prison, though, wasn't until a season 3 episode called Black Widower, so this really isn't possible. He's sneaky, but he's not that sneaky. In spot number 2 is Mr. Smithers' skin tone. If you go back and watch early episodes, you'll notice something really strange. Mr. Smithers is actually black in his first appearance. Now, I'm not pointing this out in some kind of racist way, it's only strange because obviously we would expect him with the same yellow skin like every other character on the show. Everything else about his appearance matched the typical Simpson look, he even had that bright blue hair going on. Apparently, the skin tone was a mistake that was blamed on the animation team, and the production staff couldn't afford to have it fixed, which is why it made it into the final edit. They ended up covering up their mistake by waiting until his second appearance, where they gave him the yellow skin to match the rest of the cast. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is Maggie Already Exists. This one is just ridiculous. It's actually the most famous error in Simpsons history, so if you haven't heard about it, you might be living under a rock. In the episode titled "And Maggie Makes 3, we see Homer find out the news that Marge is pregnant with their third child. Homer is pretty distraught at first, which is funny to watch, but there's something very wrong in the scene. When Marge tells Homer about the news, they are in the living room sitting on their couch. Behind them, there's a picture on the wall, and it is a picture of Maggie, who isn't even born yet. The best part about this mistake is that it was first spotted by The Simpsons producer Matt Selman. It is okay, Matt, we all make mistakes. I mean, you gotta be pretty stupid. That's an unborn child and you got her picture behind you. Oh wow. Starting off the list at number 10 is the Ebola outbreak. That is right, The Simpsons predicted the virus that our world has yet to find a cure for. Some argue that the virus outbreak was fake and that the government was behind that whole thing. It's totally fake, you guys. Like, there's no way that was real. But regardless, I'll let you guys be the judge of that. One thing we can't deny is the fact that The Simpsons predicted the 2014 outbreak 17 years before it even happened. In a scene from season 9, episode 3, titled Lisa Sacks, Marge reads a book to Bart, who is sick, and the title of the book is Curious George and the Ebola virus. On the front of the book cover, you can see Curious George sick in bed, hinting that he is suffering from the virus. Ebola was first discovered in 1976, so it's strange that the cartoon show would predict that it would affect people in 1977. First ever outbreak to be reported was in 1995, when 254 were allegedly killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Out of everything they could have titled that Curious George book, they picked the Ebola virus? Really? The odds are way too strange for it not to be some sort of prediction. Up next, number 9 is the FIFA scandal and Germany's win. This one is a double whammy. During the episode titled "You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee," Homer is asked to be a referee by the World Football Federation. During the 2014 episode, Homer ends up getting arrested and Germany wins the tournament. Only 1 year later, in 2015, 2 FIFA presidents were accused of corruption and banned from all football related activities for 8 years. There were also 14 FIFA officials who were busted for corruption. Coincidence that Homer was the referee at the same game and got arrested? Probably not. On top of that, the episode also predicted that Germany was going to win the World Cup, which they did. Swiping the number 8 spot is Disney buys 20th Century Fox. In season 10, episode 5, which was called When You Dish Upon a Star, it was predicted that Disney would one day own 20th Century Fox. In the 1998 episode, Ron Howard and Brian Grazer produced a script that Homer pitches. The script is being produced at 20th Century Fox, and there's a sign out front of the studio's headquarters that reveals it is, I quote, a division of Walt Disney Co. This was many years before it actually happened on December 14th, 2017, when it was announced that Disney had actually purchased Fox for an estimated $52.4 billion. Disney got Fox's film studios and a big chunk of the television production assets. They also gained access to some popular entertainment properties like X-Men, Avatar, and coincidentally enough, The Simpsons. Coming into number 7 is the invention of the Shard. The Shard, which is referred to as the Shard of Glass, is a skyscraper in London designed by the Italian architect Renzo Piano. Kind of a random thing to be predicted, but somehow The Simpsons knew that this famous building was going to be built. In season 6, episode 19, titled Lisa's Wedding, you can see the prediction during one of the scenes. The episode came out in 1995, and during Lisa's trip to London, we can see a skyscraper behind Tower Bridge that looks oddly similar to the Shard. Now I understand you might think it's just a building, but not only is the look the same, it is also the same location that building was built. Construction on the tower started in 2009, 14 years after the episode aired. At number 6 is finding a three-eyed fish. Kind of a weird and random prediction, I know, but it's still pretty impressive. In season 2, episode 4, Bart catches a three-eyed fish in the river by a power plant. He ends up naming the fish Blinky, which is clever because the whole three-eyed thing, get it? And his catch makes local headlines. We wouldn't think anything of it at the time because three-eyed fish aren't actually real. However, it's like the Simpsons knew they would find one here on Earth one day. The episode aired in 1990, and almost a decade later in 2011, a fisherman reeled in a three-eyed fish in Argentina. The weirdest part about it was that the reservoir where it was found in was fed by water from a nuclear power plant. Coincidence? I think not. Halfway through the list, number 5 is the US beats Sweden in curling at the Olympics. Some people would say that one of the most upsetting parts of the 2018 Winter Olympics was when the US curling team won gold over the favorite Sweden team. No one would have predicted the win except for the Simpsons, of course. The historical win was predicted in a 2010 episode, season 21, episode 12, called Boy Meets Curl. In the episode, Marge and Homer compete in curling at the Vancouver Olympics and end up beating out the Sweden team. The win wasn't the only thing that was the same though. In real life, the US men's Olympic curling team won a gold medal after defeating Sweden even though they were behind in the game, which is exactly how it played out in the Simpsons episode. Like to a T. It's pretty wild. Alright guys, at number 4 we have Bengt R. Holdstrom wins Nobel Peace Prize. In season 22, episode 1, bets were being placed on who was going to win the Nobel Prize. Martin, Lisa Database, and Milhouse put together a betting pool of who was going to win and for which category. Bengt Holdstrom in real life won the Nobel Prize in economics in 2016, but the Simpsons predicted this win 6 years prior. In the episode, Martin holds up the scorecard showing their different bets, and you can clearly see that Milhouse voted for him under the economics category as well. So clearly someone had faith that he was going to take home the prize. Here we are, number 3, with the Higgs boson equation. That is right, the Simpsons made a scientific breakthrough years ago and no one even noticed. It happened in season 8, episode 1, during the episode called The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, when Homer becomes an inventor and is showing his mathematical work on a blackboard. A scientist and author named Simon Singh noticed the discovery and even wrote a book about it called The Simpsons and Their Mathematical Secrets. He says that the equation we see Homer has written on the board actually predicts the mass of the Higgs boson particle. The mass that the episode predicted was confirmed with proof in 2013 after a $13 billion experiment. Simon Singh talks about this wild prediction, saying, "If you work it out, you get the mass of a Higgs boson that's only a bit larger than the nanomass of a Higgs boson actually is." It's kind of amazing as Homer makes this prediction 14 years before it was discovered. Who knew Homer was such a smart cookie? In spot number 2 is the Siegfried and Roy tiger attack. Alright, this one is nuts. During a 1993 episode 10 in season 5 to be exact, gambling is legalized in Springfield. Because of that, the town basically becomes Las Vegas, and there are 2 entertainers that have an act involving white tigers. In the episode, one of them gets attacked by the tiger during the act. Sadly, this episode mirrors what actually happened to Roy, a real-life entertainer who goes by the name Siegfried and Roy. His act involves a white tiger, and during his performance in 2003, the tiger lunged at his neck and attacked him and then dragged him off the stage. He was in critical condition after the attack, but he did survive. But he never regained full use of the left side of his body. This prediction is one that people would have never believed would actually happen, especially Roy. Taking the number 1 spot is Trump as president. I don't think any of us saw this coming, even if the Simpsons did predict it. Maybe we were just in denial that he would actually get elected as president one day. I don't know. Donald Trump defied the odds when he was elected as the 45th president of the United States, but the Simpsons predicted that it would happen 16 years prior. In season 11, episode 17, called Bart to the Future, Bart flashes forward into adulthood where he sees Lisa is president, and she inherits a budget crunch from her predecessor, Donald Trump. During the episode, we see that the country is broke and is falling apart, and the writer of the show said that that was the whole point. He told The Hollywood Reporter, "That just seemed like the logical last stop before hitting rock bottom. It was pitched because it was consistent with the vision of America going insane." Well, the joke stuck, and that's exactly what happened. America went insane.